I wanted to start off by thanking everyone who's joining us, the hundreds of people from around the country. And on behalf of Cliff and others, we wanted to say that we hope your families, your friends, your colleagues are, as somebody told me today, testing negative but staying positive during COVID. So thanks for carving out a little time with us this afternoon. I also wanted to thank my friend and guest today, client, Cliff Minsley, for joining us on this show. Cliff is the co-founder and co-CEO of 10 Federal, which is right down the road in Raleigh, North Carolina. They own multifamily, student housing, and storage units. And what we really wanted to get out, our goal today is to learn how Cliff and his team improved efficiency and EBITDA, and what kind of processes, problems they encountered on that path, and what does the future hold. But first, I wanted to, before we got to the Q&A section, I wanted to stop and let Cliff tell us a little bit about what they're going through and touch on how you're navigating COVID. And you can include your wedding plans as well in that, Cliff, I think.
Hey, Patrick. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here today. And yeah, COVID's been throwing everybody for a loop for sure. I was supposed to get married back in March, and I'm still a single man, but hopefully we'll get there one day. But yeah, I would definitely say that COVID's added complexity to what we do. I'm thankful that we're not an airline, and as far as the real estate sectors go, we operate in the multifamily and self-storage space. So, housing's necessity-based, which is great. And then storage tends to do well in times like these. So we're very thankful for that. To talk on our storage platform, we operate our properties in an automated unmanned fashion, which is atypical from the norm. And so that's been great for us during COVID, in that we've been able to service our clients already leading into COVID in kind of a contactless manner, which is being widely adopted in the industry now. But all those trades and practices that we were already familiar with in the storage industry, we've been able to implement those on the multifamily side in short order. And so the multifamily, like for instance, automated tours where tenants can go and see the units themselves so that they're not in contact with personnel on the property, things of that nature. We've been able to adapt very quickly, and it's done well for us. I think the fact that we're in good industries that are responding well to this scenario of these current times, combined with the ability to adapt, has done well for us.
That's great. So all the work that you put into automation and efficiency prior to this is paying off in an unexpected way, it sounds
Indeed.
like.
Yep.
Other than your wedding being postponed.
Yeah, it didn't save my wedding, unfortunately.
Not yet. Okay. Well, I wanted to give a little bit of background before we get into the questions on what we do and why we're here. I said I'm managing director of River Oak Risk. We've been in business for 7 or 8 years. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia. As Maddie said, I'm based in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and work all over the country. Our CEO and COO combined have over 50 years experience in this space. And I define that as the intersection of risk, law, finance, and what we do in this special place is, first of all, we're better defined by what we're not. We're not brokers. We work with brokers. We also work directly with clients, as we did with Cliff at 10 Federal. But we're specialists in this place where self-funding or self-insurance, typically around a captive, but always involving self-insurance, earns greater returns for our clients. And that's across a range of industries, from, we work with orthopedic surgeons to storage units and everything in between. Anytime there's an anomaly in the market where clients like Cliff are paying too much for insurance, we want to help, and that's what we do. So we don't sell any insurance. We simply look at the risks in your business and determine whether protecting yourself would earn more money, more return. we kind of got into the apartment space a little bit by accident, but met with a client with about 10,000 apartment units. And we were looking at builder's risk and other P&C risks that we create captives for. And we discovered that they were paying well over $1 million to third parties for tenant liability and only had about 5% in paid claims back. And we thought this has got to be rare, but we looked back over several years and saw that was the norm. So we self-insured that with a captive, and today they enjoy $1 million dividend every year. So that got us into the program about 4 years ago. Since then, we've rolled this out to well north of 150,000 units now. So we have a lot of experience, and so that's an exciting start to our business and how we got involved here. I'll stop there and let Cliff talk a little bit about maybe how you approached tenant liability and different risks prior to us meeting.
Yeah, so prior to setting up our captive, we went through kind of the normal third-party channels with the various groups that provide tenant insurance in the storage realm, and then the groups that provide tenant insurance in the multifamily realm. And, for us, it always helped on our insurance premiums for the property insurance when we could demonstrate that there was this protective layer on the multifamily side for tenant liability. And the issue with that, though, is you're essentially hurting cats in the sense that typically when somebody signs a lease, you're trying to track down that they have a COI to provide indemnification against the property or for the property. And that can be administratively burdensome, especially if you have a property where people are staying past their initial term if they're renewing licenses and things of that nature. It's almost without exception that folks are going to let their policies lapse, or they don't send you renewal certificates and things of that nature. So, on the multifamily side, it was incredibly important and attractive to us that we could, require that a tenant have some sort of liability insurance, and then B, if they can't provide evidence to us, or they don't opt to have their own policy, it was very streamlined in that we could get them to participate in our program. And so that eradicated a huge inefficiency on our side. Obviously it's attractive that we could sell the product. Well, I don't know if we even quote unquote sell the product, but provide the service. Yeah. And then on the storage side, for us, that was being able to provide a product that we tailored with you, Patrick, and your team to address the needs that we felt were important for our tenants. Like, for instance, water damage is a big one, and not all the policies out there cover water damage. And then, if we have rodent issues and different things of that nature, without paying an arm and a leg. And we really got that policy honed in, and I think we offer a better product now for our tenants. And there, just to be clear, the tenants, this is tenant content, indemnity. It's not for whether a tenant, damages our building, but we provide a really good product, and we ask that tenants have content insurance so that in the unfortunate event that something happens, it's not that we're trying to work it out between the property and them. We have this policy in place. Everybody participates or provides their own policy. And so without exception, then we've got, River Oak to lean on to help us work through those issues, because we have a plethora of other operational issues we're addressing on a day-to-day basis. So
sure. So great. Yeah, there was a lot of work in the very beginning, understanding the risks. And then once that was codified and part of the process, and then in the policies, it's all it's humming in the background now. And we handle all the claims should they come, when they come. We'll handle those as well. But, yeah. But to be clear, there was some work in the beginning, fully understanding your process. Do you want to take us through? I mean, I think about you guys as being some of the more efficient, or the most efficient, doing the research, really looking for every opportunity, not just in, tenant or insurance even, but across all of your, that's your mindset, right? In looking at opportunities, pricing them up. But a lot of other prospects, or a lot of your competitors, get caught by the shiny objects, I'd say, or distracted to other things, but you guys really stuck it out. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process you went through and the research? Because you didn't just look at us, you looked at a lot of options, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we are a almost, to a fault, vertically integrated. I mean, we have everything. We're essentially a real estate investment firm, but we have everything from site work and construction to assist on the development side. And we are developers, and we build properties, we operate properties, we own properties, we manage properties, all the way to, from site work being on the most hands-on, like tangible thing, to we have a technology company where we develop proprietary technologies to run these properties. And we have, part of that's been through necessity, but, like we've identified so many inefficiencies in the whole spectrum of operating real estate that because we're so vertically integrated, we can connect the dots of those inefficiencies. Whereas like I was writing an email the other day explaining that we had our site work guys in the same room as our computer programmers, and it was kind of an interesting meeting. But we can do that all under one roof. And when we learned about I just never knew that we had the ability to open our own captive through a reinsurance program. But when we saw that that was possible, we started vetting, who had those programs and who had they worked with. You guys were, came across in high regard, but also, the fact that you're local and you spent so much time with us on the front end to really tailor what we wanted to do to help. We're always constantly trying to improve the machine.
Right.
And so that is one of our driving, foundational principles.
Yeah. No, and we learn something with every client, because like they say, if you meet one multifamily investor, you've met one, because their properties are going to be very different. Yeah. Their goals are going to be very different. It's an exciting business in that regard, for sure. Every day is completely different. Well, let me break it down this way, Cliff, because we think about, and stop me, I'll stop after each one, but we think about it kind of as 4 personas that within 10 Federal or every one of our clients, we have to win over really 4 different personas. The first is the tenants, and you highlighted that a little bit. And I'd say that, they don't like the status quo, because they don't like, they're coming to buy, lease an apartment from you, right? Being told at lease signing, they also have to prove they have insurance or go out and buy insurance. It doesn't go over well, even if it doesn't always show. And we see that from cancellations on the way back to the apartment, all the way to complaints. But the status quo right now in most markets with third-party companies is it's going to range from somewhere around $12 a month to, we see $35 a month in some urban areas now for just for tenant coverage. Our program's at $12 a month, and let me stop there. Where do you see from the tenant experience, the status quo versus the program we put in?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm trying to buy a house. I'm supposed to close tomorrow, and I'm just appalled at all the moving pieces. I mean, I run a real estate company, and we obviously do a lot here, and I would consider myself capable of running down and completing tasks, but I can't believe the runaround I'm going through to just buy this home. And so, on the multifamily and the storage side, another driving principle for us is the customer experience. If we can really make the customer experience better and we can have that retention, we can improve efficiency, we can become more profitable. So, I mean, the fact that we have a lot of control over the product that we provide, but also we're a one-stop shop. So when you come in and you're going to lease an apartment, it's not like, oh, well, sorry, you also have to go see your insurance agent, get a COI, and make sure that we're notified when your next renewal is done, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, right. I think customer experience is paramount.
And the next one is community managers, because you don't have this as much, right? Because you're trying to automate, and you're well on your way to complete automation in a lot of your segments. But so maybe I'll speak to that from some other clients. in exit interviews, they talk about it's like one of the least liked parts of their job, right? Is going and knocking on doors or escalating messaging to lapsed policies. It's a thankless part of their job. And so you've eliminated that by getting rid of a lot of, but you still have some community managers, and I would say making them efficient is something that you and I both share a high regard for, right?
Yeah, well, so in the multifamily, if you were to go to one of our properties, we have a full staff at all of our multifamily still. I mean, we still operate in the traditional sense. We're just adaptive for COVID times currently and however long those last. And then on the storage, it is true. If you go to a facility that we own, storage, nobody's going to be there on site, but all the properties ultimately are also, monitored and to a degree are managed by human beings in my corporate office. But yeah, it's true that you've got to win them over. And, frankly, again, it creates a lot of efficiency when it's our program. It's something that they're educated on. It's not like we've got some other tenant insurance group that's come in. They're like, this is how we operate. This is how you have to explain it to the tenants and things of that nature. And now, River Oaks gives us guidance so we don't cross any tripwires as far as, the right vernacular to use and the way to explain what product it is that we're offering. But again, it's a one-stop shop. And, I really tip my hat to you all. The program's been up for quite a while. We have had some claims, and essentially it's just the manager's got to notify River Oak and the vendors on your end. And then that's basically it. We provide the circumstances of the claim, but then we also pass the tenant on, and we just wait for a verdict or recommendation rather. And then we act if we're in agreement with it. We follow through on that. And it's been a very seamless process. And I see a Q&A question, is River Oak in NC only or nationwide? But we have storage properties as far north as Illinois and as far south as Texas. And we have been offering our program, in many states.
Yeah, that's a good, so I see the question. So we're in all 50 states, and we're based, like you said, domicile with the captive in North Carolina, but we operate in all 50 states. And the lease language could be different in every state, so it's important to have that buttoned up. The next persona I'll talk about is the owner, you or your investors as well. And the thing that comes to mind there is not only is sure you appreciate the efficiency if you're an investor, but I wouldn't call this found money because people are working hard to get it, right? But as an investor, it's often coming from an unexpected place. That our program is generating on average a little north of $100 per unit per year in pure profit for the client on the apartment side. And so they stop there and say, well, also you're covering 100% of your tenants. So it's like, it's the best of both worlds. We get a lot of this, it's too good to be true kind of, reaction sometimes, that you could actually cover everybody. So your risk manager sleeps at night or maybe loses his job. And then on top of that, it derives all this profit. So how do you look at this as, let's say you go to a lot of conferences, you're involved in global things. I go to IMN, I've spoken at some shows there. How does this idea stack up, or this to other, great ideas out there? And I think we've got 1 minute left.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, I do think that this is truly, for me, at least in my personal opinion, it was kind of, found money, and it's the best of both worlds and then more. I mean, it really does provide, in my opinion, a better product from an operational standpoint because you have 100% coverage. You're making your liability on your property insurance better because your insurers of the properties are excited that the tenant then has the first, is the first line of defense, so to speak, through the captive. And then lastly, I think that the best way I could characterize setting up the captive and the fact that it is profitable, and it is wonderful that it's profitable, but it is not the only reason why we did it. But if you're going to look at the profitability, I mean, it's sort of like getting rewarded for having done the immense amount of work of creating a portfolio of properties. I mean,
Yeah.
my brother and I co-own our firm 10 Federal, and we've been at it for a decade now, and we have a portfolio of properties, and that is a barrier to entry for some folks to set up this program, and it's, you know, sort of a reward. And I would say that it's got one of the highest, as far as all the business units that we operate, which are many now, it is one of the highest ROIs in relation to my brain cycles and my time. And
Yeah.
we really spend almost no time, because River Oaks, you know, you spend time on the front end, but once the program's up, you all do the heavy lifting. And so
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I'll answer some of the questions offline, but I thank you so much, Cliff, for joining us and sharing some of that today.